Yo, we live. Let's get it. Let me just give about just a few seconds. Anybody that wants to come in, let them come in just to witness it live. For my number one person who comes out, thank you so much for coming out. We're gonna go ahead and get this one in. Thank you for the like. Second person coming in, thank you for the like. It's gonna be a good one today. I think these topics are deep, real big. A lot of them are real important, when it comes down to it. When you look at a lot of people's goals and what they attempt, things like changing a 6-pack to an 8-pack, 4-pack to a 6-pack, everybody has to realize, genetics plays a major role in stuff like this. Let me go ahead and give y'all the topics that we'll cover, and then we're going to fly right through it. I know today's Tuesday, so, I'm just deciding how I'm going to do every day's show. Today, I'm just going to roll with the questions, all right? The main questions that I have in the titles, mainly what I want to cover. If anybody does happen to have anything else, feel free to type it in inside the comment section, and I'll dive into it either midstream or after the stream, but I'll definitely touch base with any questions that y'all have. As far as I go, vitamin of the day, exercise of the day, we're going to push all of that to tomorrow. Today, what I have in store mainly is going to be just the 3 questions that we have in the title, all right? And then again, if y'all have any, feel free to type them in below. So let's get this started, all right? It's going to be a good one, especially if you out there, you grinding, you working out, and you're thinking about fast reps versus slow reps. It's a big one because I'm going to tell you right now, for a long time, I'm talking about years, I thought that slow reps was the way out. So what we'll do is we'll talk about slow reps, moderate speed, and then we'll talk about a faster speed and kind of talk about the differences between the two, your pros, your cons, and all of that good stuff. So let's talk about the slow speed, which is the speed that most people would be convinced that is the best speed to work at. Why? Because people think and feel that a slower speed during your repetitions is more difficult. Now, let's rewind before I start getting going. Repetitions. When it comes down to repetitions, that is how many times we're actually lifting the weight, okay? So, for example, if I'm doing a bicep curl, every time I curl the weight up, that is considered 1 rep. Again, that's 2 reps, 3 reps, and so on. What you usually find is that you get a little package, and the package usually contains so many repetitions for every set, all right? If this is how you have your thing set up, you're going to want to consider the speed that you work with each repetition. So when you consider slower speeds, all right, so for a long time, I was always convinced that the slower speed was going to be the best speed. Why? Because it seemed to be more difficult. At the end of the day, the slow speed does seem to be more difficult, but depending on what your goal is, you may or may not face the benefits that the slow speed gives. So for example, what type of benefits will the slow speed actually give? Now, it'll give your body the ability to maintain, that posture. It'll give your body to maintain your balance. Your stabilizers will come into play. All of that stuff will work when you're actually going slow, because you notice that you're going really slow. Let's say I'm doing a press, and you don't want to kind of teeter-totter and fall over to the side. So going at a slow pace could actually help control balance. If someone's going real fast, they might lose momentum or control of the exercise, and they could fall out of whack. Things could go wrong. It could possibly lead to injury. So someone might feel or think that going at this slower pace is key with what they have going on. Now, it's a little different when you start thinking about goals. Now, when you think in terms of safety, yes, I agree. Going at a slower pace will usually result in less injury because you're more focused. You have the ability to kind of think about what you're doing. Whereas going at a faster pace, sometimes things could easily get out of whack. But there is a con to actually going slow. So what they've said about going at a slow pace during any exercise, and especially if you're working with a big load or a great amount of weight, going at a slow pace could actually put more stress on the joints, tendons, and ligaments. It could put more stress on those areas outside of going at the faster speed. All right. And now this is one's going to blow your mind right here, because I know based on what a lot of people think, they say, oh, I'm going to burn more calories going at this slower pace? Well, in actuality, you burn more calories doing your repetitions at a faster pace. All right. I need you to understand that you moving any object across any given space at a faster rate will always burn more calories than you moving any object at a slow rate. All right. For example, I have a rock. Let's say my cup of water right here. If I take this cup of water and I move it real fast, that's obviously going to project more caloric usage. All right. But if I slowly push it, even if it's heavy, and I slowly push, slow, it just doesn't spend as many calories as if you react in a more explosive, like action, movement, or exercise. So when you start to compare slow reps to fast reps, you need to think about the benefits that you may gain. If it works and correlates with your goals and what you have going on, feel free to exercise slow reps, but only during certain sessions. And also feel free to exercise faster reps, but only during certain sessions. Why? Because you gain benefits from both areas. For example, if I had a brand new client, I would advise the brand new client just getting into exercise to go at a much slower pace than I would advise my athletes. My athletes who are working on speed, power, strength, things like that will usually come more so from the faster repetitions. All right, if you have an athlete and you're looking to make that athlete stronger, if you're looking to make them jump higher, run faster, these are things that are usually done working with a rep range or repetitions that are done faster than the slower reps. You have your bodybuilders who get out there and they do their curls and they do everything really, really slow. They're out there, they're curling, everything's going really slow, and they're feeling the burn. So yes, you will gain that benefit. You will be able to break down muscle differently and use a lighter weight when you go slower. So that's another benefit that you face by actually using the slower pace during your repetitions. You have the ability to go with a lighter weight. You'll see a lot of people using lightweight, going really slow, and getting a lot of benefit from the exercise because they're focusing, they're concentrating on exactly what they're doing. But again, there is a pace that is too slow. And the slower you go, you're usually putting more and more stress on those ligaments, tendons, and joints. Your body is made to push and move this weight through space with a one particular action. And you'll notice that if it's done at a faster pace, instead of the weight bearing, setting on any of those joints, ligaments, and tendons, it's spread and distributed evenly, and it's done at a faster pace. So the ligaments, tendons, and joints are not under stress for such a long duration. And that's key when it comes down to injuries. All right. That's why you might want to work with a moderate pace at the end of the day. So the slow one could always be too slow, but you have your benefits. I would advise going into that direction if need be. Your fast also have its risks. You know, your risks of injury are a lot higher, but it also has its benefits. So I actually would advise for you to go between both, maybe slow and fast on different days. And then you're also going to want to make sure you have another day where you work with a more moderate pace. All right. That moderate range that you work within is actually going to give you more bang for your buck because you're going to get a little bit of both benefits coming from both areas. All right. You'll gain a little bit of strength. You'll be able to build your speed. Things like that could easily be done with moderate speeds that you actually work within during your repetitions. Okay. So it's very important that you know and understand that if you're brand new to the game, that you can easily focus on slower repetitions. But over a period of time, you want to eventually gain the necessary strength and start to work with the proper form. So when you actually speed up the exercise, you're not getting all crazy and out of whack. You can easily control it regardless of the fact that you're now moving with a much more faster pace during the exercise. All right, so that's key in actually going slow. It'll help train the mind, train the muscles, build your ability to know and understand the movement. So when you actually do speed it up, it's easily done with a lot of focus and control. Now, again, what I would advise is stick with the moderate. If you go with a moderate pace that you go within for your repetitions will easily open the door and give you that ability to maybe not withstand that chance of injury going too fast, and then maybe not withstanding the risk that you might take on your joints by going too slow. So the moderate range would definitely be what I would go for if I had a brand new client. You don't really care about extra strength, extra speed. You just want it more so for the cosmetic reasons. You're following a great diet. You're reducing your weight, reducing your body fat. I would encourage that person to just work with a more moderate speed during their repetitions, and that'll possibly give them more what they're looking for and not risk their chances of injury going too fast, or risk their chances of injury going too slow, putting the pressure on the joints, ligaments, and tendons. So that's it. As simple as it sounds, just go at a moderate pace. I mean, again, you have your benefits by going fast and going really, really slow. Just make sure you apply those when and where needed. But on a day-to-day basis, I would focus on the moderate pace during your repetitions, because too slow might work against you and too fast could also work against you, especially if you're not properly trained. So let's move on. Thank you so much for the like after that question and the reply that I had. Let's move on and jump into the next question, which I think is really, really important, and that's talking about muscle imbalances. All right. So you'll see a lot of stuff online. I actually recently seen a video by a fitness YouTuber that I follow, and after seeing his video, it encouraged me to do this, because I wasn't all the way in with exactly what he explained to be the way out when it comes down to fixing muscle imbalances. So I won't even dive into really what he said. I mean, he did talk about things that made sense, but it doesn't necessarily apply the exact same way. And one of the things, without mentioning the person's name, one of the things that were mentioned was actually when you want to focus on muscle imbalances by going the unilateral way. All right, just making sure you use one leg at a time. So I'm going to do just the right leg. I'm going to do just the left leg. So what you need to know and understand is that sometimes when you focus on unilateral exercises, which means it only involves one hand, so you go one after the other, sometimes that could be an open invite that could throw the body's balance off, okay? For example, I'll give you one, I'm not sure if y'all know, so maybe y'all know or don't know, a dumbbell row. So, and I wish I had I opened this up in StreamYard so I could have gave y'all a share screen ability to see exactly what a dumbbell row is. So a dumbbell row is an exercise where you actually sit over a bench and you actually roll the weight. So rowing the weight also means just pulling the weight up. So pulling the weight up towards the stomach, but think about me actually on a bench. So I'm facing the bench, I'm on the bench, and I'm actually rowing this weight up to work the back muscles. In a lot of cases, you see a lot of people doing this exercise with just the one single arm. Now, what ends up being the case when you're doing these exercises with just one single arm, you got to keep in mind that now the body is trying to interpret and process what happens on the other side. So if I'm holding a 60-pound weight and I'm rowing on my right, what happens on my left side? Is it properly balanced, or is the weight really uneven at that time? So being that the weight is uneven at that time, this could be one of the beginning stages to somebody opening up their body to becoming imbalanced. All right. And if you focus on unilateral exercises constantly, that's usually an open invite to put your body in a position where you're just not balanced, because you've always worked with the workload on just one side. It'll usually push the body in a position where it only knows how to operate with that workload on one side. Whereas you need to train your body to actually work, operate, and function with a workload on both sides, so it works and does everything evenly. That's usually one way where you find that open invite to the muscle imbalances. The other one is form and technique. So when it comes down to form and technique, what you're going to always see in the gym, if you're a frequent gym goer, you're going to always see these guys get under the bench. And I like using bench pressing because it's one of the easiest ones. Or you could use something as simple as a shoulder press. And what people tend to do is, if, let's say I'm bench pressing, so I'm pushing straight out, people tend to lean to one side. So they find their stronger side maybe on, let's say, the right side, and during the bench press, they'll lean to that one stronger side and push with the stronger side. When it comes down to muscle imbalances, what you'll find that'll get you through that door, make sure you have everything more balanced, is actually going to be if you focus on something like a bar. I know that a lot of people say the dumbbells are the way out, but it's not necessarily the case, and I'll explain that. So when you're focusing on the bar, what the bar allow you to do is somewhat to a degree evenly distribute your force on both sides. It'll actually give you a mental ability or idea to actually make that happen. Whereas the dumbbells don't work the same. The dumbbells, you're working by yourself. Your body's still working on each side unilaterally, okay? It's not working in sync. You're trying to train your body to work in sync. So getting up under a bar using proper form and technique is usually the best way out to start to work on and fix some muscle imbalances that might be occurring. Now, keep in mind that what we're talking about here is actually going to be strength imbalances. All right. You can also focus on things. If you decide to use a dumbbell, you say, hey, this is the only way out. One quick idea that they usually like to throw out is if you are doing an exercise and you find yourself doing it unilaterally, you can easily do, like, let's say your stronger side, you're able to rep out 15 reps. So on this side, you can do 15 reps, but on this side, you can only do 10. The idea that you always want to do when you're working with a muscle imbalance is you only want to work as hard as the weaker side. If this side can only lift the weight 10 times, you need to make sure, even though this side can do it 15, you only work within the range that your body can do on the weaker side. All right. That'll keep you in position that as the weaker side builds up in strength, the stronger side doesn't go overboard. All right. And the stronger side will always go overboard if you don't even that out to some degree. Now, you're probably asking, well, at some point in time, can I ever use dumbbells to unilaterally help my imbalances? Yes, it could be done, but it just depends on how it's done. I would advise it to be done or applied somewhere throughout the workout. I wouldn't gauge my entire workout around unilateral exercises because, again, it's not going to be the all be all when it comes down to getting rid of your muscle imbalances. It's very important that you understand that that's going to come from technique. That's going to come from proper form. That's going to come from the right usage of the right equipment and things like that. And you can also use things like machines. Now, even in a machine, you might find someone throwing their body's balance off by sitting in a machine. They sit back, and again, they tend to do their press. So they're pushing. They should push out evenly, but they end up pushing on just one side. I see it all the time. And at the end of the set, you'll see that person finish out the rep, and one side will go up, and then the other side will finish out. That type of an imbalance, again, if you're on a machine, you got to focus on form and technique, okay? Even on a machine, as restricted as it may be, and as great of a form as it'll help you initiate and do, it won't work in your favor if your form and technique is not proper. And I just gave you an example of someone being on an actual machine with the proper guidance, but still managing to push their body in a position where you're possibly creating muscle imbalances, all right? And this is all related to strength. When it comes down to muscle, there's a difference between strength imbalances and muscle imbalances. If you are not happy because your left shoulder is not the same size as your right shoulder, good luck to you trying to get those to really, really even out, because it is something that people work on, but they tend to not be able to get it down packed. And if you notice that there is a noticeable difference between your left and your right side, and you've worked on it and you've brought it up to the best of your ability, but it's not really all the way where you want it to be, just leave it alone. All right. Just leave it alone. It is something you could work on, but what you may find might be very true is that nobody can get their body to properly even out exactly between the left and right side. Now, that involves muscle building, okay, the size of the muscle. When it comes down to muscles itself, muscle insertions, I gave this example on one of my previous streams. And what I basically mentioned is if you notice that you have different muscle insertions on the left and right side, that is something that is completely out of your control. So if you say, hey, look, because I could easily tell somebody, hey, my body's not properly balanced. Why? Because I noticed, I'm not sure if you can see it to some degree. I'm not sure if the lighting is proper, but particularly with my bicep. So with my bicep, what you'll notice is it has an extra cut. It has like some other weird cut that is actually on the top of the bicep. But on this side, it's not there. All right. If you're considering that to be one of the imbalances, you're looking at it and from the cosmetic side, you just want the left and the right side to look completely even. That's not going to happen. All right. You cannot recreate muscle that does not exist. You can only take the muscle you have, build it up, make it stronger. You can make it toned. You can make it become more visible, but you don't necessarily start packing more muscle on top of more muscle. So that leads me into the next question. Hey, Dorothy, how you doing? T. Brad, how you doing? That leads me into the next question. So I have this insertion on the left side, and I would love for it to come in on the right side. And I've worked at it and worked at it and worked at it and never seen any change for years, never seen any change. And I wondered why. And I come to find out it's the same reason why you can't turn a 4-pack to a 6-pack. And you can't turn a 6-pack to an 8-pack. And you don't turn an 8 to a 10, okay? Because the breakdown is the genetic makeup that you have already been born with is the genetic makeup that you're going to roll with from now until the end of time. So I have a 6-pack. I cannot turn my 6-pack to 8-pack. I can't do a million crunches. I can't diet with the best vegetables, salads, grilled fish, and grilled chicken and make 2 more abdominals pop in my midsection. It just won't happen. So everyone has to be mindful, and I like to use the 6-pack as an example, that this is going to apply everywhere else throughout. I just gave you the example of where my biceps stand. I want to create more of that chunk on top of my right bicep, but it doesn't ever seem to be something that I can manage and do, because genetically, my genetic makeup is already made and created. There's nothing I can really do to these muscles but get them a little bigger and get them toned and more defined. But we're not going to start building a bicep on top of a bicep on top of a bicep. We're not going to start going with, I'm not going to wake up and say, oh, today I'm working with 6-pack abs, but in 2 months, I'll then be working with an 8-pack. It just never, ever will happen. Never will happen. That is the genetic makeup that you've been born with. That is genetic makeup that you have to roll with. If you are a guy, you probably also, you could be the guy, or you've seen other guys. I've seen other guys with 4-packs. I don't know what happened to the other 2 abs, but genetically, their genetic makeup only gives them like 2 at the top, and then they have 2 at the bottom, and they have a little space in the middle. Whereas like mine has just the 6, the 2 at the top, 2 at the next up, and then the 2 at the bottom. Some people have 8. There's some guy that's on YouTube with 10, and his video is viral. I think it's real. I think he was born genetically with a few extra abdominals for whatever reason. It's within his genetic makeup, and it could actually be true. I don't have it really on proof, but I think it's possible. Why? Because everyone's born differently, and these are things that you're going to notice in each individual and things that you have to accept. And that's my biggest thing, is I get these guys who come into my gym and they say, look, I want to make sure my abs look exactly like this guy's abs. And I'm like, look, you got to roll with whatever your genetic makeup actually allows. You got to roll with what your genetic makeup allows. Don't come in here bringing me a picture of Arnold saying you want to look like Arnold. We need to see what your genetic potential is. All right. We need to get you dieted down. We need to get you into a consistent regimen with working out and eating correctly. And whatever you bring your weight down to as far as body fat goes, and whatever you bring your muscle up to is what you have to accept. All right. I had it for a long time in my life where I thought I could change the world. And I used to give my boys that was like, arms, we talking like this big. My man P that I used to hang out with when I used to break dance, his arms, real talk, was like this big. And he used to come at me and be like, yo, what can you do for me? Like, what type of workouts can you give me in order for me to really build up from my skinny arms? And at that time, I was very inexperienced and brand new to the game. So I swore on everything that if I gave him the exact same routine that I did, and I gave him the exact same eating regimen that I was following through with, he would easily gain the same type of muscle that I was seeing. And it never ended up being the case. And I remember he worked at it, and it was tearing him up, because he would get up every day and, measure his arms, just like a female would get on the scale and check out weight and stuff like that. But it was making him crazy, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, what ended up happening after like 6 to 8 months, he even thought that I had something against him. He thought I was holding back on secrets and things like that. And it wasn't even true. I was giving him everything I knew. But at the time, I didn't understand how the genetic makeup plays a role in how much potential someone will actually see. And what ended up being the case was he grew. He took my advice, he took my eating regimen, and he grew. But facing a metabolism that he was facing, being as fast as it was very hard for him to grow. He was considered one of the hard gainers. So it didn't matter if he ate cookies, cupcakes, donuts, hamburgers, fries, pizza. He could eat all of those high calorie foods. And at the end of the day, regardless of the fact that it was high calorie, his body would just burn right through it. His body really never gave him the ability to build muscle, because it was constantly burning through any and every calorie that actually came in. And it was part of his genetics that he couldn't really shake. He couldn't really make his metabolism go slower, regardless of how much calories he would bring in. So what he would do is he would focus on building muscle on top of bringing in as many calories as possible. And he did see, like I said, he saw some growth. I remember he put on, a good bit of inches on his arm, but it was nowhere near what I was working with. And that's what was tearing him up. He wasn't messed up in the head saying that he's not getting any results. It was more so he wasn't seeing what he wanted to see. And this is what I need a lot of people to know and understand, that you're not going to see, you may not see exactly what you're aiming for, but what you got to do is accept what God already gave you, which is whatever's within your genetic makeup. And that's usually what you're going to see after you've dieted down for a long period of time. Bring your body fat down as low as you could bring it and work on building muscle as long as you can. And then look at your genetic potential at that point. And that's probably what you could really work with. All right. I had to learn it. It was very hard for me. I got into bodybuilding and stuff like that. I was under the impression that I could work with a heavier weight again and again and again. If I continuously add weight, one day I would go eating away and trying to put on as much muscle as possible. I could work my way up into 200, but when I get chiseled and bring the body fat back down, it drops me back down to put me on the stage at like 190, 195, maybe in the late 180s, 188, something like that. That's usually what I anticipate every time I think about getting on the stage or competing or getting back into the best shape that I want to be. But I never think or assume that I'm going to go up to like 215, 220 and start working with some weight ranges that real hardcore bodybuilders are within. That'll never be my case because my genetic potential does not allow me to get that big. It is what it is. A good way to really pin and know someone's genetic potential is look at the wrists. You see how small mine are. You can wrap your finger around it and you have space. That means we growing, but we ain't growing like that. There's a lot of other people that you may not even be able to get your fingers around their wrists. And I'm gonna tell you right now, when you throw a 100-pound weight in that person's hand, they're gonna toss it very easily because their body could usually manage a lot heavier weight. Also applies to the ankles. If you can't get a look at the wrists, look at someone's ankles. It'll give you an idea of kind of where their body type stands as far as taking on heavy loads of weight. Let's see. So I think that really kind of sums up that portion. So as far as like, can I turn my 6-pack to an 8-pack? Yeah, so I think I'm really summing it up. I think we're going to make this one a quick 30-minute video. I think I really killed it on the slow reps versus fast reps. If you don't have a clear understanding of exactly how that works, feel free to drop any questions in the comment section. How can I fix imbalances, strength and muscle? Keep in mind that, oh, well, let me rewind because we're kind of recapping. Slow reps versus high reps. Keep in mind that the slow reps are something I encourage beginners to aim for, but it's not to be done for a long period of time, because if your rep range ends up going too slow, if your reps end up going too slow, that could easily put a lot of stress on the bones, ligaments, and tendons. Not something you want to work with. So again, I stress, if you work with a slower pace during your repetitions, it is only something I would encourage for my beginners because they're learning the movements, they're learning the exercises, and you're most likely going to be working with a lighter weight so they can actually practice this. And over time, you eventually want to have them work into a moderate pace during the repetitions. And if they're an athlete, you especially want them to work within the fast pace. Keep in mind that moving an object across any given space at a faster pace is always going to burn more calories than moving any object over a small given amount of space. So keep that in mind. The idea is a moderate speed on your repetitions. All right, too fast, more for the athletes, but definitely will burn a little more calories. But too slow, more for my beginners, but definitely puts you at a possible chance risk for injury, which also stands with the faster reps too. So moderate, moderate, moderate. Stay within that range, you'll be good. Next up, fixing the imbalances. Remember I mentioned fixing the imbalances. You can get on a machine, still face the chance of building up those imbalances. If it's not done with proper form, that is going to be key when it comes down to fixing your muscle imbalances. Do not assume that you're going to get under a dumbbell, and if you're working unilaterally, you're going to easily fix those imbalances. You're not going anywhere if this side doesn't do anything to work and compensate for the other side. You got to work on that compensatory work. So the left side, if it only can go 10 times, then the right side needs to work at the same workload. Okay, same weight, same amount of repetitions, even though the right side can go much longer. It is what it is. Just work with your weaker side. And over time, you'll see that'll be what leads to you actually helping those imbalances, which will never be 100% spot on, but you'll get them very close. That involves strength imbalances, also involves fatigue, stamina, endurance, everything related to that. When you talk about muscle imbalances, if you're just not happy with the right and left side, that's really on you. I can tell you right now, if it involves muscle insertions and you want to see more muscle on a certain side, if that's not within your genetic potential, then you need to forget about it, because you could work at it all day, but you're never going to see that result come out to the light. So definitely when it comes down to the imbalances involving actual muscle, if it's you wanting to put on more literal muscle on top of your muscle, that's not going to happen. All right. If you're looking for the cosmetic change because you feel like one arm's just a little bit bigger than the other, then yeah, you could work at that. You'll be crazy. I mean, it's kind of crazy to when you think about it, but what ends up being the case is sometimes all of that type of stuff is all in your head. All right, a lot of guys, we get in front of the mirror, we watch ourselves for a long time. Before we know it, we start looking twice and saying, like, damn, I think my left side might be bigger than. But you'll notice that if you go out to the grocery store and things like that, people just admire the physique. They're not all the way in like, hey, I think his left side is bigger than the right, or his right is bigger than the left. And I mean, if it's a wow, noticeable difference, then of course, get on your job, work on it. It is able to be done. But if you're the only one that's really noticing the difference, and you run around to every single person and you say, hey, don't you notice my right side is kind of bigger than the left? Yeah, people will start picking up and noticing it if you keep calling it out. So if it's more cosmetic and you're just saying, hey, one is just a little bigger than the other, yeah, it's something you could work on, but it could be all in your head at the end of the day. As much as you might beat yourself up over it, it's probably something that nobody even sees. All right. And then to finish it up, can I turn a 6-pack to an 8-pack? No, it just doesn't work like that. All right. We don't turn 6-packs to 8-packs. It is impossible. Impossible. I don't care how many crunches you do. I don't care how long you do it for. I don't care if you've been in the game for 20 years, 30 years. You do not change a 6-pack to an 8-pack, and 8 doesn't change to 10, and 10 doesn't change to 12. Once you know that, that should obviously change your outlook on so many other things in relation to building muscle, especially if you're a guy. Because if you're a guy, you're probably like, oh, damn, well, there was a few things I was counting on, but if my genetic potential doesn't actually give me that ability to have that, then I need to forget about it. Exactly. Exactly. Because there is a lot of things that I wanted and my genetics didn't allow. And when I would get on stage, of course, you're looking at everybody else like, damn, he got the whole package. He got everything. And then when you're looking at what I only had what my genetics would allow me to have. So I had to make my improvements on those weak points. Also, as you pose, you work on particular poses in order to hide the weak points and bring out the strong points. And it's all part of the game. It's part of the sports, how you do it. And that's part of how I won and stuff like that. It's like, you're still going to win if you don't have the full package. You just have to bring more things to the table. Even me, just throwing it out there, I won Best Male Poser. I didn't just get the title because I was out there just doing the basic poses. It was actually getting out there and doing poses and things that a lot of people never seen before. Not necessarily just the poses itself, but it's how I went about going about hiding my weak points, bringing out my strong points, and making the judges think that I was bigger than I actually really was. And that's just the way of the game, the sport itself. Not everybody's perfect. Not everybody's bringing a whole package. But those who are, sort of the underdogs, they still manage to break out and then end up winning. And that's just usually the case. They just strategize and do the necessary things, and they can break through. I'm going to finish up with these comments, and then I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I've maintained this. This is Dorothy. I've maintained the same weight for 15 years. I weigh 152 and want to lose 20 pounds. I've been the same weight since I had my son. Okay. So Dorothy, the first thing we would want to zero in on is going to be, so same weight for 15 years. All we need to know at that point is, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Because whatever's actually being done, this is breaking it down scientifically. It's always going to be about calories in to calories out when it comes down to losing weight. I don't know your lifestyle, but I could kind of somewhat say that however many calories you're burning, it's almost equivalent to the amount of calories that you're consuming in order for you to break out with the same weight after this longer period of time. Now, if you're looking to make a difference in weight, the first thing you would have to do is you need to alter those numbers. You need to make sure calories spent outdo calories coming in. However you want to do it. You can do that with exercise, or you could do that with clean eating. One of the two is going to help you to break out with the result that you're looking for, which is going to help you to lose weight. Now, I'll give you two examples. Let's say you want to do the exercise part. So you say, okay, well, I don't want to cut back anything that I'm eating. I want to just go and do the exercise route. If I do the exercise route, I could easily eat all what I was just now eating. So you find that, hey, I did a little exercise. Hey, I ran around the block one time. Then you check the weight and you're like, whoa, I didn't lose weight. I didn't lose weight. I ran around the block. I did exercise. What happened? I didn't lose weight. Okay. You say, okay, well, I'm going to run around the block twice, run around the block 2 times. You look back and you say, man, I still didn't lose weight. Like, what's really going on? I'm not losing weight. I also applied more of what needs to be done. Then you run around the block 3 times and you knock off half a pound. Now, mind you, let's say, I'll give you more context. Let's say we run around the block once a day for 3 days in a week, because we got to give a scenario. More information, the better. You run around the block one time, 5 days a week. At the end of the week, you lose no weight. Next week, you run around the block 2 times. At the end of the week, no weight. Following week, run around the block 3 times. At the end of the week, you lose half a pound. What you notice is that if you run around the block 3 times and eat the same way that you were eating, you start to notice a difference in your weight. It seems like it's starting to come down. What you can do instead of running around the block 3 times is you might be able to eliminate 1, maybe 2 foods that you're actually eating. Okay. So what they say happens in a lot of cases, if you eat a slice of pizza, what's a slice of pizza? 250, 300 calories. So you easily down that pizza. I mean, what does it go down in? 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4, 5? Easy. But when you decide to go out and burn 300 calories, nah, it's not going to go down in 3 minutes. The speed that you actually gain those calories is going to break out a lot different when it comes down to exercise. Burning 250 to 300 calories in exercise is actually going to take or require you to be in the gym for at least 30 minutes at a time. The intensity cannot be along the lines of the lower end, probably not even moderate. You're probably going to have to drift back and forth between moderate and high on intensity for you to rev and burn 250 to 300 calories. So the idea at the end of the day, because what I told you to do, Dorothy, is if you want to focus on your weight and see a difference, you need to think about where you want to apply your work. Do I want to apply my work in the area of physical activity and run around the block 3 times? Or do I want to just cut back a slice of pizza, some high calorie food that's popping in your diet somewhere, even if it's not considered a high calorie food, if it's higher than what you normally eat in your eating regimen, then that's probably something that's working against you. So I would take it out and see over time, without doing as much exercise, I'll walk around the block 1 time, take out that really high calorie food, whatever it is, the highest calorie food that's within your eating regimen, and see if you can knock off some pounds easy. And over time, you're obviously change a little bit of information that I'm giving you, because your body's going to adapt to it and look to you to actually do more. How often should I work out? It depends on you. So I did a video a couple days ago which would help bring it brings so much sense to the question that you made. And I gave the most critical example. I gave you an example of someone who could only work out once a week, and they could only work out for 10 minutes. Once a week, and they only could work out for 10 minutes. So it is the most extreme case and situation. And what I did is I went ahead and gave you all the pros and the cons to someone only having the ability to work out once a week and only working out for that 10-minute period of time. The biggest thing that I would say, just to answer that question, and I'll talk about how often you should work out. If someone was limited to only being able to work out once a week and they only had a duration of 10 minutes to work with, the biggest advice that I would have given to that person is within the 10-minute frame that they have, they need to make sure the intensity that they're working with is the highest it could possibly be. If I had someone that had all options wide open and they said, I only have 1 day a week that I could work out and it has to be 10 minutes, I'd probably make them do sprints for 10 minutes straight and lift weights. Maybe at the end of the sprint, dying and gasping for air, I'm going to throw a weight in your hand and I'm going to be like, lift away, and have you just work at it until you are almost dead after the 10 minutes. And then I'm going to send you on your way and see you next week. Now, that is when and where you will gain benefit. Now, as things change, you do less. If I'm limited to 10 minutes 1 day a week, if I go 2 days a week, I may not have to focus all that intensity on just the one workout. I can spread the intensity between the 2 days. If I go 3 days a week, I can spread my intensity out across 3 days. I can also give my body different workloads, different exercises. I don't have to necessarily go for sprints because I'm looking to push my intensity so high. I don't want the intensity that high. If I'm going to be in the gym, or if I'm counting on being in the gym 3 days this week, I do not want intensity high every single day because I need to give my body the ability to recover within a good enough period of time. So no, I wouldn't actually want the intensity really, really high every single day. The more days I actually work with when it comes down to working out, the more and less I start to differ with intensity on each particular day. And I can make my exercises and workouts become more sports specific or more focused or whatever it is, instead of being limited to just a 10-minute time frame and 1 day a week. So back to the question, how often should I work out? Well, let's just say this. The more often you work out, the more benefit you will actually have. But there is an amount that is too much. An amount that's too much basically means that you're working out and you're not giving your body the ability to actually recover. How do you know your body's recovering? It'll all tell in your performance. If you can get out there and you can bench press 200 pounds, I'm telling you right now, you cannot bench press 200 pounds every single day. It just doesn't work like that. Unless you're doing like a 1 rep max or something like that, whatever, that's easy. But if you're actually trying to get in and rep out 15 repetitions for every single set, you cannot do 200 pounds every day. In order to know if your body has properly recovered, you're going to notice that if you can lift 200 pounds on Monday and you let your body rest on Tuesday, rest on Wednesday, maybe even rest on Thursday, when you come in on Friday and try and lift the same 200 pounds, you're going to put it up. You're going to put it up really easy, very quickly, without no hesitation, no problem. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you try to put up 4 sets of 15 pounds with 200 pounds, and it is somewhat of a challenge for your body, and you try to rep that out on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, what you're going to notice in your performance is on Monday, you're going to perform really well. And on Tuesday, you're going to have some really discouraging results because your body is going to be fatigued at that point in time and not have the ability to push as hard as the day before. With that being said, you're going to notice that instead of the 10 reps that you were hitting on Monday, you're now down to like 7 or 6. And if you try to follow through with the same type of work on Wednesday, which would be 3 days in a row, you're going to end up in the same boat. You're going to end up doing even less repetitions and gaining less benefit from what you're actually doing, and you're going to have diminishing returns. It's going to actually seem like you're getting bigger and stronger because of what the world has told you. If I work out every day, I can get bigger, faster, stronger. But you got to realize and understand that the body requires a certain period of recovery in order to come back bigger and stronger. And if you don't allow that, it usually sends your body downhill instead of having you go uphill. So for Dorothy, when it comes down to how often you should work out, that's what you would think and keep in mind. You want to work out as much as you can while giving your body the necessary time to recover. And while you go through that recovery phase, I would advise making sure your calories and things like that are all in line, stress levels are as low as it could be, sleep is as high as it could possibly be, and your chances of recovery would be the highest at that point, which would allow you to get back into the gym. Because it's very important that when you consider going back into the gym, like I just mentioned, you need to make sure that you have properly recovered from the previous workout. All right. Hopefully that answered the question, and I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to get off of this one. Thank you so much for everybody for coming out. Hopefully y'all learned a lot. I think this one was a good one, like I say about most of them. This is just all vital information, I think, when it comes down to any type of fitness journeys. These are questions that I've found that if you go to Google and you type them in, the way that, or the answers that you get, it's not necessarily the answers, it's the way that the answers are given. It sends you on these crazy, crazy circles that you're just like, but what happens if I do this? I know you're giving me this side of the angle to look at, but what happens if I do this? And that's why I put together this channel, hopefully to create some clarification behind what is found on Google, where sometimes it's a lot of open-ended stuff that doesn't really lead you down the right path. Hopefully my channel could open up that door and give you a better understanding of how this fitness thing plays out, because to some degree it seems logical, but then to a whole nother degree, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. Just as simple as you can't just work out 7 days a week 8 hours a day and count on having the biggest, greatest, strongest body in the world. That will tear your body down. But logically, doesn't that make sense? I mean, work out a lot, get bigger, stronger, faster, easy. But nah, it's not the way it breaks down. But I'm gonna get up off this one. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you everybody for checking out the videos. Thank you for the likes. Please don't forget to like, share, comment. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you want to donate, feel free to drop anything inside the link either below on this video or the previous video or maybe even the video after that. But let me get up off this one. This is my morning, so I'm gonna get ready to go to the gym. Y'all know what it is. Thank you so much for coming out. Conservative Guy, I'm out.